Hi, my name is Sophia Botha, and welcome to another edition of Botha Rants, where we go through all the latest LGBTQ and political news of interest. And some other stuff, particularly today, because, well, the most important story of the day is that Neil Lennon has resigned as Celtic manager. He should have resigned, or should have been sacked months ago. Because it really doesn't matter if he goes now. Our season is completely and utterly fucked. I know some people are probably going to be wondering, how does a mouthy Jewish South African, why does a mouthy Jewish South African support Celtic? Long story, can't be bothered to tell it. I just do support Celtic, and as anyone, as any friend can tell you, I am a hardcore Celtic FC supporter. Right, so yeah, he's resigned. We needed to. I mean, the loss to Ross County at the weekend was a fucking embarrassment, and not for the first time this season. Celtic have had an embarrassing loss. We've had way too many of them. Rangers are going to romp home, with the title, and well, we need to start thinking about rebuilding. Of course, in the people who have been spoken about to replace him, Eddie Howe. Eddie Howe, I heard that Eddie Howe ruled himself out of the job a few weeks ago, because there was talk about him replacing Den and Nen. I saw somebody else in the betting, Martin O'Neill. Now, that's interesting. Yeah, of course, Martin O'Neill, who has previously managed Celtic, and his record is second only to Big Jock Stein. And of course, Jock Stein, who managed Celtic to the European Cup and 9 league championships in a row, which at that point was a world record. And of course, a record we've now equalled. Yes, of course, Rangers also did it in the 90s. Yes, those were dark days, and that's why I loved O'Neill. O'Neill, when he came to the club, yeah, we were in the fucking doldrums. That one season, John Barnes managed us, and that he was John Barnes, great player, but wasn't up to it as manager. So, and O'Neill came along, and those were the glory days of O'Neill managing and Henrik Larsson up front. And we almost won the UEFA Cup final. Yes, lost to Porto, managed by a certain Jose Marino. Yes, the special one. Before he went off to manage Chelsea. I actually remember that UEFA Cup final, 2003 in Seville. 2 reasons. One, the authorities were absolutely shocked that something like 100,000 Celtic supporters descended on Seville, and there wasn't a single arrest. And also, I remember getting chucked off what you could describe as a cross-dresser chat room for mentioning the score. I remember that evening I mentioned the score on this cross-dressing chat room. I mean, I am trans. Why was I on a cross-dresser? Well, back in the day. I guess it was because they didn't like the fact that I was disrupting their feminine fantasies, maybe. I don't know. Anyways, anyway, excuse me a minute. I need to take a drink already. So really, that's the news of best news I've had all week. Well, thank you for joining us. No, there's other stuff we need to go through, unfortunately. Yeah, so on Monday, I was going to include it on the show, but I decided to leave it to today. The governor, Boris, announced the roadmap out of lockdown. I think the idea is to have the country completely out of lockdown by, was it June the 20th or June the 21st? June the 21st would be sort of symbolic because it's midsummer, isn't it? The longest day of the year. So people can go party. And believe me, people will. When the lockdown finally over, people are going to want to fucking party, and I don't blame them. So one of the so schools are going to schools are. I'm just checking this out. Yeah, here we are. Right. Yeah. So schools. The first thing to happen is schools are going to be reopened sometime next month, and then on April the 12th, non-essential retail is going to be open, which means Wetherspoons is going to be open. Oh, won't the Gowan be happy then? Yeah. Yes, they can go down, get cheap beer, and talk cheaply about immigrants. Yeah, because that's all that happens in fucking Wetherspoons. I absolutely detest him, fucking Martin. Not just because he was a Brexit. He's just a dick. I mean, this is a guy, right, who actually walked out of an interview with Owen Jones. Now, I love Owen. I've met Owen several times. I think he's a great person, but he's not fucking Jeremy Paxman when it comes to interviews, right? And Tim Martin actually walked out of an interview with him. I'll also be glad, if I get a vaccine by then, that I can get a manicure. Yes, I hate to be a total and utter fucking Karen about this, but I would like a manicure. Yeah, but the problem for me is I'm stuck indoors until I hear anything about a vaccine because I have been told to stay at home. And well, I'm sitting here starving. Well, I will be in a couple of days. I'm running out of food. I mean, sure, I can order takeaways, but I've only got so much money. Here's the thing, people will say, well, isn't there someone from social services who could help you? Yeah, there is a scheme for people who have to self-isolate, self-shield. That you can, there are helpers. However, someone I know has cancer, right? They were told last March they had to self-isolate and self-shield or whatever. And basically they asked for help, and some person who supposedly was one of the volunteer helpers rang them up, said, okay, I'll come and get your shopping list and your bank card. Well, they gave them their bank card and the shopping list, and well, let's just say they never heard from that person again. Yeah, funny that, isn't it? No, and the other thing I don't like about this is that people basically, they see me, they see that I'm disabled, and they think I need a social worker, I need a therapist, I need a doctor, which I find ableist, if I was to be honest, because that's always the automatic thought. I'm not saying that I don't need a doctor for some stuff, and I certainly do need probably a support worker for other stuff, but the point is that is always the automatic reaction. And what always makes me laugh, right, are the people who complain about, how, disabled people are welfare spongers and complain about big government. They're always the people who are the ones who won't actually lift a finger to help a disabled person. Rather, they expect a social worker to do it. And yet they complain about disabled people getting welfare and government being too big. Fucking conservative fucking hypocrites. Anyways, so yeah, but obviously the lockdown. I mean, what we've been told is the vaccine rollout is going splendidly. That's what we've been told. Everyone, all around, everyone. Well, why haven't I heard anything about a vaccine? Aren't I supposedly meant to be a priority case? I have had, excuse me, I've had emails, I've had text messages, I've had letters saying, stay indoors, stay indoors, stay indoors. And sure, I'll take the medical advice, but you're told, well, you are a priority for a vaccine, yet, you see all these other people who have had vaccines who aren't key workers, who aren't in, protected group, who aren't, considered vulnerable people. And you just wonder, Anyways, on with the show. Yeah, this meme kind of says it all, doesn't it? You know, the Tories are fucking up the country, but the UK press are more fucking interested in Harry and Meg. You know, this is what I was saying last week, that essentially the royal family are a great big diversion for the UK media not to report on how much the Tories are fucking us. That is essentially what I feel about it. So, yeah, the media is meant, you know, the news media is meant to be the fourth estate in challenging the government, whoever's in power, and they are letting us badly down. Okay, they really are. Yes. There's a thing called the Stanford experiment. Well, which is basically, to sum it up, give a man a badge and a gun, and well, a uniform and a gun maybe. Sorry, and they'll turn into a right little Adolf. Well, watch this.
What? I haven't done anything.
Do that shit again.
Do what? I haven't done anything.
Put your fucking car in me again. Throw your fucking car in me again. I'll fucking kill you.
I didn't.
Yes, you fucking did.
Okay.
Do that fucking shit again.
I went around you.
No, do that fucking shit again. I'll fucking kill you.
He was right in front of me. I had to stop.
You fucking stop.
I did. I'm sorry. Shit.
The cop in front stopped really
stopped
fast.
Right in front of me. I couldn't do anything.
Fucking stop.
I did. Damn. Fucking jack off. Can I go?
All cops are bastards. AC, AB. He just pulled him over for no fucking reason and starts, you know, thrusting a gun in his face. Fuck me, you know? Yeah, what the fuck, people? Yeah, so what is it that the you know, people like Ben Shapiro and other far right dicks like to tell us? Facts over feelings, right? And stop acting like snowflakes. Well, just watch this. This is a Trump supporter.
And I've talked to so many about what is going on. Their heads are in the sand. They could.
People don't see the light of Trump. They don't see his glorious words. Sorry.
Care less. I said to a lady in Lewisburg, PA, working for her, I said, "Are you following the election?" She goes, "I'm not for Trump." You don't know what I want to know what I said to her. And I said, driving away, get your act together or you will lose your freedoms for the rest of your country's life.
Sorry, I'm just looking for my therapist card here. Just for anger stuff, I do go to therapy, and I'll leave you a card. He's incredible. He's an incredible guy. He's helped me a lot.
And I've talked to.
Fuck. Yeah. I mean, yeah. This is the Trump cult still. Yeah. Well, there's not much more I can say other than they're fucking loons. Alright, yeah, so, I've spoken a lot about Ayn Rand. I'm always making jokes about her. And I saw this tweet, and, yeah, I do recall this. Basically, Ayn Rand thought, that the perfect man was a guy called William Edward Hickman, who was a serial killer. Essentially, most serial killers are they're psychopaths, and thus they're narcissists. They just don't care about anyone else but themselves. They only care about their own satisfaction, right? And this is what basically Ayn Rand espoused. If you've read any of her stuff, I have read Atlas Shrugged. I did read it. You know, however fucking long it was, and you know, including that, what was it, 30 page diatribe by the main character John Galt. I always remember what Christopher Hitchens said about Ayn Rand. I didn't read Selfishness is a Virtue. This is another one of her books, but I always remember what he said about it. He said, "Yeah, like people needed a self-help book on how to be selfish. Yeah, people don't need a guide to be selfish." Because Atlas Shrugged was made into a 3-part movie about a decade ago, I think, and it flopped at the cinema. Well, that's capitalism for you. I mean, all these people worship capitalism, right? And, you know, they think that the sun shine out of her ass, and, you know, the film based on her book, it flopped at the cinema, you know, because the free market went, nah, this is shit. The other thing about Ayn Rand was she was a bigot. She was just a nasty woman, right? Just really is. She basically said that Native Americans had no right to the land they were living on. She also was a homophobe. She also had a thing about not liking men with beards. That was another thing about her. Well, she was just. I can't understand how anyone thinks that this woman was had any sort of greatness. She's just a bitter old woman, and also I used to read like libertarian write-ups about how beautiful she was. No, she was an ugly ass woman. She really was, both on the inside and out. Talking of capitalism, just have a listen to this.
Why aren't Republicans saying, long run, this is a moment we should have lower taxes, not more spending?
Yes.
That would have a permanent positive effect. We can have...
It only would be a positive effect on the rich, right? And basically, these two are stooges for the rich, right? Here's the thing. The right wing can't change the fucking record. It's always, and particularly when the Democrats are in charge. When the Democrats are in charge, it's always about, you know, small government, lower taxes. You know, they become deficit hawks. But of course, when the Republicans are in charge, the Republicans are busy ramping up the deficit like there's no fucking tomorrow. You know? Was it Dick Cheney, famous Dick Cheney said, no one gives a damn about the deficit. Yeah. I mean, we over here, of course, next week we have the budget. And fun enough, the budget is on a day where I'm scheduled to be doing a show. Next Wednesday. Well, that's why I said a week's time, didn't I? So, it'll be interesting to see the way the Tories are going to go, right? It seems to me that Boris is not ideologically wedged to austerity as some Tories are. Mainly because I think he realises that all those people up north who voted for the Tories last time round to get Brexit done ain't going to like the Tories so much if they start cutting spending in those communities. Thing is, there are still hawks in the cabinet. I believe Rishi Sunak is supposedly meant to be one of them, and he's the Chancellor of the Exchequer. The thing is, the national debt is over 100% now of GDP. And that is unsustainable. So they're going to have to do something about it. Okay. Now, obviously, putting taxes up on the rich is one answer. Say online sales tax so that Amazon, can't reap the profit. Basically, so Amazon can't take the piss that they've they've been doing, which has hurt high street retail, blah de blah de blah. There are various things they could do which wouldn't hit the poor. But we're talking about the Tories here. The Tories who are in the pockets of the rich. And more than likely, the most vulnerable and defenceless in society are going to be the ones who are going to be hit the hardest. We thought the last dose of austerity and all the disabled people which died as a consequence was bad. This time it could be a lot fucking worse. Really, it could be. We'll have to see. Anyways. Yes, we need to watch this. So this is about the Proud Boys. It's a segment from Channel 4 News. Makes some interesting points. As you can see, more violence if members remain alienated. Well, yeah, I still think the Proud Boys are just as dangerous as they ever were. Well, let's have a watch.
These are the Proud Boys, self-described Western chauvinists but labelled far-right white nationalists by many others.
Western chauvinists. Well, that's just a euphemism for white supremacists. That's basically it.
Known for street thuggery and clashes with left-wing groups, they were brought to international prominence when Donald Trump said this.
I'm Proud Boys, stand back and stand by.
But now the question is, did they stand back and stand by, or did they plan and carry out a prominent role in the violent storming of the Capitol on the 6th of January?
They weren't standing back on the 6th of January, I can tell you that. They were very much involved with the Capitol riots. And in some quarters have been bragging about it online.
Storm the Capitol! At least 8 Proud Boys have been arrested, as well as 10 others allegedly affiliated with the group.
So how are officials not prepared? We've got to answer that question.
Channel 4 News had access to the Proud Boys leader, Enrique Tarrio, in the days around the Capitol attack.
He said it, you guys, we got to listen to the people.
By the way, notice that he's using a Chick-fil-A cup. I always forget to say, Blair White, right? Any video you see of her, she takes a suck out of a cup like that, and she's always taking a sip out of a Chick-fil-A cup. That's a fuck you to trans people, because for those who don't know, Chick-fil-A, which is a fast food chain in the United States, what sells, well, I guess there's sort of an alternative version to KFC. They basically sponsor various anti-LGBTQ initiatives. It's essentially they're homophobic and transphobic bigots.
And I've now met up with him in Miami to ask exactly what his role was and whether the Proud Boys orchestrated the storming of the Capitol.
But the suggestion is that this was coordinated and that you knew that they were going to assault the Capitol.
They were talking about it for days on fucking line. Was it the Donald.win or whatever the fuck it's now called? You know, and places like that.
Well, I'd say no. That is definitely false.
Liar.
You're the head of the organisation, and all
that's exactly why it's easy for me to say that I can't.
All these people have now been arrested who are Proud Boy members.
That's exactly why I say, because I'm the head of the organization and I know exactly what we planned and what we didn't plan, that's exactly why it's so easy for me to say that we did not coordinate to assault the Capitol.
Enrique Tarrio, who's Cuban-American, was not in Washington, D.C. on the 6th because he'd been arrested over the burning of a Black Lives Matter flag. he was ordered to leave the city on the 5th. A camera crew following Tarrio's movements shows him meeting friends before heading out of DC.
Hello. And Stuart, pleasure's all mine, brother.
He's joined by Stuart Rhodes, founder of the Oath Keepers militia. Several of his members have also been arrested, and prosecutors allege some Oath Keepers may have been planning the attack as early as November.
We have actually a report coming up about an Oath Keeper. We'll get to that in a minute.
Rhodes himself has not been arrested.
We're just two different groups. Actually, me and Stuart. I guess we don't get along, but I guess for like situations like this.
Well, doesn't he like his Cuban Americans? Doesn't he like people with brown skin? Yeah, is he a bit of a racist? Yeah, should be careful who you get into bed with. Yeah.
Where there is a need to unite regardless of our differences. We're fighting the same fight, and I think that's what's important.
No, he wants an ethno-nationalist fucking state, and you wouldn't be included in it, mate.
Both the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers have now been sued by a Democratic congressman over the events of the 6th of January. But Tarrio denies they worked together.
Well, I don't consider him an enemy. I didn't consider him an enemy before. We just had our differences. But we normally don't work with other groups. It's just not.
Did you and Stuart talk about the protest the next day?
No.
The Proud Boys are rushing the Capitol!
Prosecutors scouring hours of video have picked out several Proud Boy members.
And there's lots of video to go through because these chuds were stupid enough to stream themselves, attacking the Capitol building.
At key moments on the 6th, the FBI is investigating possible coordination with other groups. This man, identified as Proud Boy Dominic Pezzola, is seen smashing a window with a police shield, assisting the first wave of rioters to enter the Capitol building. The man in military garb, baseball bat in hand, has been identified as Robert Giswine, apparently linked to a militia known as the 3%ers.
Neo-Nazi militia, who, fun enough, also organised security for Margaret Taylor Greene's election campaign. They were present at various of her rallies when she was campaigning down in Georgia.
Giswine is not a Proud Boy, but he's seen with them earlier in the day as they gathered by the Capitol.
Look, they're all far-right thugs. They just go under different fucking banners. It's the same fucking deal with all of them, though. They're all racist, homophobic, heteronormative bigots. Well, actually, not quite, but we'll get to that.
Prosecutors say he talked to another Proud Boy leader, Ethan Nordin. He's known as Rufio, and he's seen leading the Proud Boys as they move towards the Capitol. USA! USA! Alongside Nordin is another key Proud Boys organizer, Joe Biggs.
Jeez, lots of Proud Boys at the Capitol riots. We didn't do anything. Well, I think the video shows otherwise.
Out with a walkie-talkie. Later, both men appear inside the Capitol building. All four men face multiple charges for their alleged role in the insurrection.
My members did trespass into the Capitol in Pezzola. In Pezzola's case, he did break a window, and he's paying the price for breaking a window.
And that was the key moment that people went inside the Capitol.
That's one of the moments and we did not coordinate with Pezzola.
That's more than trespassing, isn't it? It was a riot going on. People died. There was a lot of violence. Police officers were attacked.
Okay, did my man hold up? Well, we're talking about the Proud Boys here. We're talking about like the general. If you're going to blame, here's the thing: if you're going to start blaming people that were there for other occurrences that happened there, then by all means arrest everybody for murder.
don't the Proud Boys have blood on their hands as well?
No, Proud Boys don't have blood on their hands, because in order to have blood on your hands, you have to have blood on your hands.
Well, you do have blood on your hands because you were stabbing a whole lot of... I mean, prior to the Capitol riots, there were clashes with various other protesters at other demonstrations. I remember one before Christmas where people were stabbed, and it was the Proud Boys doing the stabbing.
And they didn't.
Why were they part of the storming of the Capitol?
I think they made a mistake. I think they shouldn't have gone in. I don't think.
Why did they go in there?
Oh, he's only saying that because they failed. I've said this before. Essentially, if they had managed their, with their to succeed with their insurrection, they would be applauding them. Seriously. But because they failed, and fascists don't like failure, they're prepared to throw those who failed under the bus.
What were they doing?
Just as Trump did. You see, that's why none of these fuckwits got, pardons from Trump.
I think they got caught in the heat of the moment with everybody else.
However, in this video, filmed before the attack took place, Proud Boy Daniel Lyon Scott, known as Milkshake,
Milkshake's afraid of me.
can be heard saying this.
Stop right there anyway. Come on, tighten up. Come on, boys. Tighten up.
Let's not yell that, all right?
It's Milkshake, man. Idiot.
Daniel Lyon Scott has not been charged with a crime.
One of the Proud Boy members, they call Milkshake, was heard on tape, which was being filmed by another Proud Boy, Eddie Block, saying, "We're going to take the Capitol," and they're going, "Shh."
No, they're not going shh. They said, "Shut up. We're not going to do that."
No, it sounded more like, don't let people know what we're about to do.
But the Proud Boy is on tape saying, "We're going to take the Capitol."
Yeah, and
so is that
in
not,
that video?
Is that not,
if you look at the whole context of the video, is that he went ahead and he said, they said, "Shut up! Don't even say that, even playing around."
He looks uncomfortable about this one, doesn't he? Yeah, he knew they were planning it ahead.
Let's not even joke about that.
that is what happened. The Capitol was stormed. So is it that far-fetched to believe that those group who were there, Proud Boys on the ground, were planning to storm the Capitol?
Did they mess up as individuals and they went into the Capitol? Yeah, sure.
That's as far as you'll say.
Guilty.
They only messed up as individuals.
Yeah, they messed.
No, they just messed up. Yeah, just fucked up. With trying to instigate a coup. No big deal. No. Fuck, I've had enough of this. So, one of the guys who's accused of beating up a policeman with a flagpole faces 40 years in prison. Probably won't get that, but probably fucking deserves it, if you know what I mean. Yeah, so, but he's not the only person who's been charged in the last few days. As I said, generally the Proud Boys, they want a white, heteronormative, fascistic state. But unfortunately, there are some trans people who really, how do I say this, are fucking stupid. Including Jessica Walkins, who is an oath keeper extremist charged over Capitol riots. And then, basically the message coming out is she's at because she's trans, she's at risk in being whilst being held in custody. Now, let me be very clear about this. She should be treated humanely, right? And the fact that she's trans should be respected, okay? In this circumstance, however, My bottom line here is, if you can't do the time, then don't do the fucking crime. And I really don't have a lot of sympathy for this trans woman, because, I mean, she's a far right extremist. I mean, I just, you know, I mean, we talk a lot on this channel about people like Blair White and Rosa Dawn, but this is past that even. I mean, this is a person who wasn't just prepared to stick their own head in the oven, because believe me, they probably they'll say things like, "Oh, well, I've had no problem from these people." You know, yes, because you're supporting them in their endeavours, or their nefarious schemes, shall I say. And thus, you know, and you're a helpful tool, because they could say, "Oh, we're not transphobic because look, we've got this member who's trans and supports us," right? But if ever the far right got a foothold in power, and you would become surplus to requirements, and you would be on the cattle trucks along with me and every other trans woman on your way to the fucking gas ovens, believe me, you would. Okay, and this is just the fucking stupidity. Yeah, so basically she isn't just prepared to stick her head in the oven, she's prepared to stick all other trans people's heads in the oven. So I don't have a lot of sympathy for her, but yes, she should be treated as humanely, and, you know, basically if she's at risk of from violence, she should be kept away from other prisoners. I don't have any problem with that. But I am mystified. I really am mystified how some trans people can side with the far right. Yeah, there must be some sort of, I don't know, personality defect with them, or they're just incredibly fucking stupid. Yeah. Yes, so as well as Sydney the Kraken Powell being hit by litigation by Dominion, the My Pillow guy, Mike Lindell, has now been included in that same lawsuit. He's now being hit for $1.3 billion by Dominion for basically spreading bullshit about Dominion fixing the election for Joe Biden. I haven't heard him say the same stuff as Sidney Powell, so I'm wondering, does he also think that, you know, Hugo Chavez had a hand in it, you know, despite the fact that, you know, he's been dead for almost 10 years. When did Hugo Chavez die? It was about 2013, wasn't it? Yeah. I think, you know, Dominion are going to bankrupt some, you know, quite a few of these far right gobshites. I mean, the thing is, the eventual payout will not be 1.3 billion. Okay, but it'll still be substantial. I mean, this My Pillow guy, he's probably, I think he is already a billionaire, but you know, the likes of Sidney Powell. She's going to be scraping for pennies. Me gets the feeling. And talking of the far right, well, they've not, you know, they've been busy in the United States. Well, they've been busy here, yes. So a far right group is pushing hateful and poisonous school curriculum, which uses racist songs and claims English people have white skin. Patriotic Alternative claims 10,000. Now that's bullshit. I doubt that figure's right. 10,000 people a month are viewing a wholesome syllabus there should be online syllabus, but personally, syllabus online during lockdown. You see, this is one thing I do not like about homeschooling. I really do. One reason is that a lot of sort of the kids, I mean, the kids who are homeschooled are usually homeschooled because their parents are either far right cracks or, you know, Christian crackpots. they get taught, of course, that that evolution is not fact, that creation, and they get brainwashed with creationist science, which there's an oxymoron, creationist science, stuff like that. Now, how this has managed to happen, I don't know, but one of the people involved, Mark Collette, he's well known on the far right. He's a Holocaust. This is a Holocaust doubter. He's a Holocaust denier, actually. So this is what they basically using the opportunity of kids. So sooner the better that kids can get back to school, huh? So stop this bullshit happening. There will always be one or two kids whose parents are crackpot Nazis who will get homeschooled, unfortunately. So, yeah, this is not good. And also, let us remember that when the lockdown and everything is over, racism against Chinese people and people of Oriental descent, because we know that racists ain't going to bother to ask someone if they're Vietnamese, Thai or Chinese before they beat the shit out of them. They just see, that they're of Oriental descent and will beat the shit out of them no matter what, thinking they're Chinese, because there's people been pushing that China are to blame for the COVID-19. Now, it's true to say that I think the Chinese government has some responsibility in all this, depending on whether this how the COVID-19 virus started, but not the Chinese people. They have nothing. I was told actually by a Chinese friend of mine who's trans that she's scared to go out, not because she's out at night, not because she's trans, but because she's Chinese. Yeah. Right. So, I get the feeling, with what's ahead, the economy down the toilet, possible, further austerity, we have not heard the last of the far right whipping up hate in the next couple of years. Yes, we get to my favourite part of the show. It's time to shit on Starmer. I saw this meme. I actually thought, this basically sums up. He's had another shit PMQs. I mean, he made no fucking impression today at PMQs. What so fucking ever. He really is fucking useless. But unless, of course, it comes to the left of the party, left of the Labour Party, sorry, I should say. Then he becomes all fucking ferocious. But he sucks up to the fucking Tories because he is a red Tory. Well, actually, he's just a fucking Tory. Keir Starmer's just a fucking Tory. So a lot of people have been asking me about what's happening in Liverpool. For those who don't know, there's been some dispute about the selection of a candidate for the election or mayoral election in Liverpool, and basically this kind of sums it up. Starmer's being Stalin, as I pointed out, that basically Liverpool will have my mayor imposed on it and suck it up. The thing is, I actually remember Blair trying to do this in London. It was back in 2000, wasn't it? Basically, the membership wanted Livingston, and the party hierarchy didn't, and so Livingston left the Labour Party, stood as an independent candidate, and won, beating Frank Dobson, who was the Labour candidate. I don't know if this will happen this time round, but I've heard talk about it. And, well, I wouldn't blame anyone. Because, well, Starmer ain't Labour, is he? And neither are any of his cronies. Yeah. Oh yeah, while we're at it, let's have a look at yes, help by I remember I talked about this on Monday, so I thought I'd give you an update. Yeah, there's a crowdfunder on help by spine for Keir Starmer. You know, gentlemen, I don't think we have the technology. Well, no, someone's going to go, you got the Bionic Man wrong! Ah, Christ, I'm going to have to play it now. Alright, so, for those who don't know, that's a take on the intro to... I was meant to include it, actually. Hold on, intro to... Well, hold on, come on. I mean, it was almost 50 years ago, this, so can you fucking blame me? No, we don't want that. Oh. Oh. Right, here we are. No, that's not what we want. Shouldn't do this live, Soph. No. Oh, that's the other one. Yeah, this is... I remember watching that one as a kid in South Africa. As I said, for almost 50 years. What always amazed me, right, was that they could make us believe that, you know, Steve Austin had super strength and could run at super speed, but couldn't make me believe that. But that what on top of Lee Major's head wasn't a fucking toupee. Yeah, well, I'm afraid I don't think we have the technology to be able to rebuild to give Keir Starmer a spine. I just think the spine, his body is he's just so fucking much of a Tory worse. The body would reject the spine, but obviously all this money is going to go to charity. And the last time I checked, he had 500 quid, so they've raised another 1,000. Wow, yeah. Well, I hope that does go to a charity, which could you put it to good use. As for Keir Starmer developing a spine, no, gentlemen, we don't have the technology. We cannot rebuild him. Okay. So, here's some not so good news. Well, as if there's any fucking change, you know, for Keir Starmer. In a huge blow to Sir Keir's... Oh, we'll just stop referring to him. The first thing that puts me off about Keir Starmer is the fact, you know, being the leader of the Labour Party, the fact he's got a knighthood. In other words, he's juiced into the fucking establishment. In a huge blow to Keir's net approval rating, has not only dropped below Boris Johnson's, but has been reduced by 7% in the last week. The poll conducted by pollster Redfield and Wilson Strategies on February the 22nd put Keir's net approval rating is at 0. In contrast, Mr. Johnson's net approval has increased by 1% to 3. Oh, for fuck's sake. So, here it is, right? Keir Starmer, despite the fact that the Tory government is one of the most corrupt Tory governments going, despite all the story about fucking cronyism and whatever fuck else coming out, you know, Keir Starmer, the leader of the opposition, has a 0% the Labour Party. And what's even Boris Johnson's approval rating has gone up. Keir Starmer. Labour under Keir Starmer is fucked. Seriously. Fucked. Right. This is from a few weeks ago, but yeah. More than a third of Keir Starmer's Twitter fans identified as fake followers. Now, I know what some people are going to say. Now, wasn't it like over half of Barack Obama's followers when he was president who were identified as to be fake? But you kind of, you never heard any stories like this about Jeremy Corbyn, did you? No. So, well, why am I surprised? I mean, so, a third of Keir Starmer's Twitter followers are Russian bots. Is he a Russian bot? I actually do think that Keir Starmer might be a troll. I mean, just think about it, right? He's trolled the left. He's trolling the unions. Story we will get to. But he's sucking up to the Tories. He's doing what a troll would do. Yeah. So thankfully, the Canary has, and I'm going to congratulate the Canary. Without me reading out an article and butchering it as I do, they do have an audio version, which we will listen to briefly. Well, some of it, okay?
Centrists promised forensic Keir, but delivered flaccid Keith.
When centrists foisted Keir Starmer on a demoralised and defeated Labour Party membership, they promised he would be forensic. But the only word that captures the limp futility of his first year is flaccid. Forensic Keir? Originally, the left rebranded Keir as Keith to dissociate him from the Labour legend he's named after. Keir Hardie, the Scottish trade unionist who founded the Labour Party, began working the mines at the ripe age of 7. Hardie channeled a life of classist exploitation into a politics to end it.
Right. I always remember hearing this. Oh, he's really forensic. He'll be brilliant at PMQs. He was a top barrister. Blah de blah de blah. No. He's useless at PMQs. He's useless generally. He is Captain Useless, and I really wish people would start using that term because I think it fits. He thinks he's some. He does. He literally does think he's some sort of fucking political superhero, doesn't he? Comparing himself with Clement Attlee, how dare you, etc. He needs to go. He's just hired Peter Mandelson, hasn't he, as an advisor. Well, I remember Peter Mandelson saying that every waking day, he worked to remove Jeremy Corbyn as Labour leader. Well, I'm going to. Make it my mission that every waking day I help to try and remove Keir Starmer as Labour leader, because Labour are in a death spiral at the moment because of his, weak as piss weak fucking leadership. He needs to go. Here's a very important point, and before I came on out, I saw a headline. I will go and read the article later. Owen, and I'll probably talk about it on Friday. Owen Jones published an article in The Guardian, and this is a point I have made online myself today and have done for a few weeks. The longer Keir Starmer is Labour leader, the longer there is no accountability for the Tories, so there's going to be no accountability for the Tories. The Tories ain't going to get challenged, right? That's the simple truth. He needs to go for that very reason, right? And I have said this, and I will keep on saying this, because I know people are saying, you're only saying this because you're on the left, and you want a left winger. I want somebody who is up to the fucking job, okay? Who can land verbal punches on Boris Johnson at the dispatch box. Starmer is not doing that. He has to go. Yes. So there's a group linked to the the current Labour leadership, which is under investigation by the Electoral Commission. All right, let's have a listen.
A Labour group linked to Starmer is under investigation by the Electoral Commission.
Labour Together, a group linked to Labour leader Keir Starmer, is...
Yeah, Labour Together, if I remember rightly, were one of the groups set up to undermine Jeremy Corbyn. Was it Open Labour was another one? Labour First? That was another one. And I know that, I think it was Labour First. J.K. Rowling helped fund that. I mean, the thing is, it's not just that J.K. Rowling's a transphobe I don't like it, she's a fucking Blairite cunt.
Under investigation by the Electoral Commission for alleged breaches of electoral law. Failure to declare. Business Insider's exclusive reports that Labour Together, LT, which counts among its current directors Shadow Foreign Secretary Lisa Nandy, failed to declare over £800,000 in donations within the time required under law. Just 100...
Yeah, they're not declaring their ill-gotten gain. Yeah. Yeah, this is typical fucking Blairites, isn't it? You know, they care more about, you know, fucking raising money for themselves than they do about, you know, actually standing for taking any principled stand. Yeah. Mike, I'm not fucking surprised. No, not one bit. Now, this video is really good. I agree with everything said in it. Okay, we'll go through it. Basically, it's about the fact that Starmer is, trying to, destroy democracy within the Labour Party. Which doesn't surprise me. In fact, they do show a clip of David Evans, and I talked about this on Monday, who was elected General Secretary of the Labour Party last May. And he had proposed many years ago that there should be less democracy in the Labour Party. He also proposed that the Labour Party, this is when UKIP were having their surge about 10 years ago, that Labour should embrace social conservatism. So it really, his influence, it really does explain the direction Starmer has been travelling. Basically purging the left and basically wrapping himself up in the Union Jack and banging on about patriotism.
Keir Starmer, Angela Rayner are conducting themselves as if Corbyn can simply be treated as a pariah, as if they were not part of the Corbyn project for years.
Yeah, and also what's not mentioned in this video is that Keir Starmer is ostensibly responsible for Labour's 2019 general election defeat, which was fucking awful. It was horrific. Because he was the one who pushed for Labour to support a second referendum with Remain on the ballot, which ended up with Labour proposing at the last general election prior to Brexit that Labour would renegotiate the Brexit deal, then have a referendum, but tell people to vote against that Brexit deal, which has got to go down as one of the stupidest policies the Labour Party has ever fucking advocated for.
In terms of serving in shadow cabinet positions, were you lying 12 months ago when you were telling the country that this guy should be the Prime Minister, or are you lying now when he's not even good enough to be a Labour MP? And I think we have to come to the conclusion that they were lying a year ago because they wanted their own career paths, because they were climbing the ladder, because they were climbing a great...
That's definitely true of Angela Rayner. She has really disappointed me. I used to like Angela Rayner, but it seems to me ever since then she's prepared to throw anyone under the bus, to basically advance her own political career. You're always going to get some degree of that with politicians, but it's so fucking obvious. Yeah, she's a trans ally, and good for her, you know, for that. But I'm just gonna say it, I'm really disappointed in her.
Poll, and so they pretended as if they supported the socialist policies, the more radical aspects of the Corbyn project of threatening the established order in this country, of redistributing power and wealth from the corporate elite to the mass of working people. They were pretending throughout all of that, and now we're seeing, when they're in a position of greater power, what their real opinion is. That is the kind of insincerity which was everything that was wrong with politics, everything that people hated, which
the reason they liked Jeremy Corbyn was that he was sincere. Even people I know who didn't agree with Jeremy Corbyn's policies thought he was sincere and principled. I commended him for that.
Produced so many ructions in the political landscape, so many rebellions against the established order from the left, from the right, over years in the period after the financial crisis. A politics which is based on a small number of people who are well trained to never say what they actually believe, who get their views from focus groups, who align their policies with big corporations, whose support base is their wealthy donors, and who create a politics of insincerity where no one believes it.
Yeah, and I should point out that Keir Starmer is now getting donations from the likes of David Abrahams, who isn't just wealthy but is a vile fucking racist. You know, this is what Starmer is doing. He's moving the Labour Party away from support from the trade unions, who, shall I just remind people, represent the workers, to wealthy donors who exploit workers. I mean, there have been reports that the Labour kitty is running dry of coppers, and well, yeah, that wasn't a problem under Jeremy Corbyn. I wonder why. It wouldn't be because, like, you know, half the fucking party are fucked off because, you know, they see Keir Starmer and they think red Tory. Yeah. Or they're scared but they're going to get expelled. And I don't want to go through the rigmarole of fucking disciplinary action. No, just for being a fucking socialist. When the fucking party is meant to be a democratic socialist party. I mean, that Labour are, you know, you can look this up, still, they still say they are a democratic socialist party. It's certainly not, they're only in name under fucking Keir Starmer, I can tell you that.
It's a damn thing that they say. They don't believe in a cause, they don't believe in social change. What they do is simply try to tell you at every point what they think you want to hear. And if you care about politics and you think things are fundamentally wrong in this country and there needs to be big change, you should be very worried about the idea of a political system in which there are two interchangeable parties of government, both run by empty suits with pro-corporate policies funded by big donors. Because the prospect of you ever getting ideas that are going to challenge established power within that paradigm are next to nil. They're trying to narrow, once again, the spectrum of politics so that it's the small number of people who agree with each other on 90% of the fundamental questions, and the only legitimate opinions are going to be the polished opinions of a small set of professional...
Well, that's already the case with the fucking BBC, I can tell you that. You read... I mean, here's a question for you, right? When was the last time you ever heard a legitimate... I'm not talking about a poser anarchist. You know, I know some people go, what about John Lydon? Wasn't he a bit of an anarchist on Question Time? No, John Lydon's not an anarchist. I mean, fuck's sake, go and look this up. He voted for Trump. And he's a fucking homophobe. I'd like to remember Johnny Lydon when he was Johnny Rotten. I don't want to remember John Lydon as he is now. But what I'm talking about is, when was the last time they had a legitimate anarchist on? Noam Chomsky. On Question Time. I don't recall. I actually don't. And I kind of think, you know, it's always the fucking establishment voice. Always. I mean, sure, occasionally, yeah, I before people bring up, yeah, I do remember Newsnight have interviewed Noam Chomsky in the past, I know. But what I'm saying is, you only ever really hear from a small sect of establishment voices at the very elite. That's all you ever hear on political talk shows. And I watch a lot of political talk shows. Right? I'm a political anorak. I eat, live, shit, and breathe politics.
Politicians in Westminster. If that's your view of politics and you think that option serves you well, then you should cheer on the purging of the left from the Labour Party, the attack on democracy in the party, the character assassination of Jeremy Corbyn. If, on the other hand, you believe that politics should have a space for people who fundamentally challenge power, the established order, wealth, well then you need to be very concerned about what's happening in the Labour Party today.
The attacks on Jeremy Corbyn were terrible. They vilified him, and they knew what they were doing, and they knew why they were doing it.
The ongoing attempt to defame Labour members is really...
By the way, they just featured a bit from the leadership hustings. And I remember Keir Starmer, he basically, you know what this guy has said about they only tell you what you want to hear. Starmer was doing that at those hustings time and time again. I remember he was at a hustings in Liverpool, and he said during this leadership election campaign, I will not give any interviews to the Sun, which of course went down well in Liverpool because of, you know, the animosity, rightful animosity people in Liverpool have towards the Sun, you know, as a consequence of the lies the Sun printed about Hillsborough victims. But I also remember when he was in Cardiff at a hustings, he tried to speak in Welsh, even though Cardiff is actually not in the Welsh-speaking part of Wales. And I just point that out. A lot of people I know from South Wales do not speak Welsh, right? And they, you know, so, you know, Keir Starmer is just, you know, playing to the gallery. And what, you know, he's trying to obviously do is he thinks he needs to woo Tory voters by being more Tory than Tory, rather than actually offering them, you know, an alternative, such as Clement Attlee did, you know? I mean, he seems to think that, you know, his hero seems to be Clement Attlee. Well, maybe he should start having, you know, the ambition and the imagination of a better tomorrow, which Clement Attlee had.
Really one of the scandals of the modern political environment. Labour members tend to be genuine, committed people who have a sense of...
Yeah, they are the salt of the earth. Seriously, they are. I've known many Labour grassroots member, and they are decent people.
The injustices that exist in the society and who have got themselves up off their arse to fight them. These are people who spend huge amounts of their time knocking on doors.
Yeah, these are the people who get Labour MPs elected, and Labour MPs basically just shit and piss on their opinions. This is what happened with the whole fracas over Jeremy Corbyn. You know, the membership supported Jeremy Corbyn, but the Parliamentary Party didn't. And the Parliamentary Party forgot that the membership are the ones who get them fucking elected. Hallelujah that someone has fucking pointed this out.
Persuading people, keeping the party going, and yet we have had nothing but contempt for these people expressed
abso-fucking-lutely
over years in our mainstream press. The Guardian, New Statesman, which should be defending Labour members and that vision of a more progressive society, but which actually, because they are so committed to their idea of politics as a small number of elite corporate robots, they don't want the messiness that comes with genuine grassroots democracy and member engagement in the party, and so they participate in that defamation. And it's not about one member here or another, and there's no question that members members can and do say things that are objectionable, and where that has been the case, there should be measures taken against them. There's no debate on that. The question is the general view of the Labour membership given to society at large, and whether or not there is a sustained misrepresentation of who the members are, what they're about, and what they believe in. And the answer is yes, it is a deliberate campaign to try to discourage people from being engaged in politics, to tell people to go back to sitting on their arses. Even if you feel there are deep injustices in society, you can't and you shouldn't get active to solve them.
Yeah, it's basic. There's a Bill Hicks routine I remember about how politics. I mean, he was coming over a bit Alex Jones, and yeah, there is a conspiracy theory that Bill Hicks faked his death and came back as Alex Jones. That's bullshit. But the one about the puppet on the left agrees with my views, the puppet on the right agrees with my views. Oh look, there's one puppet master. Go back to bed, America. Here's gladiators and beer to kill your brain cells. This is basically the same fucking deal. It is. It's like, oh, don't worry about wanting a better tomorrow. No, just enjoy cable TV and beer. That's basically it. Yeah, and I think it's so fucking cynical, and it creates a society I don't want to fucking live in, where basically people just become brainwashed fucking consumer zombies.
And I have to say, it's never more clear than in the Labour Party itself, amongst its MPs, amongst its bureaucrats, who have an incredible amount of contempt for the membership. And let me tell you, having met a lot of the MPs, I meet more impressive Labour Party members every day of the week in constituency parties than those people. The idea they have a right to look down their nose at members who work so hard for the party, who feel such a genuine sense of injustice, who get no remuneration, no money, no nothing for all of what they put in. The idea that those MPs have a right to look down their nose at those members sickens me, and it makes me feel like there's something fundamentally wrong with Labour's attitude to politics and what it's supposed to represent. Sometimes I feel like, you're through the looking glass on these questions, because we spent the last 5 years being told we're living in some kind of Stalinist regime in the Labour Party, where Jeremy Corbyn was cracking down on all dissent and his nefarious elite within the party were in control of everything. Actually, what was happening was every single day of the week, elected representatives and MPs who were only MPs because of the work done by local members and because of the support of trade unions were going into the press and undermining everything the party stood for day after day after day and facing zero consequence for it. Whereas now we have Jeremy Corbyn.
Yeah, including, can I just point this out, the Jewish Labour movement, who refused to endorse Corbyn at the last election, refused to endorse Labour, not just Jeremy Corbyn, at the last general election. And no disciplinary action whatsoever was taken against any Jewish Labour movement member for, the leadership of that group for that. Yeah. Yeah. They're trying to force out Jewish Voice for Labour, who are the anti-Zionist Jewish group in Labour, because they're the wrong sort of Jews, because they're the Jews who speak up against oppression, and talking about how under Jeremy Corbyn everything was Stalinist. No, fuck it, he's right. Well, it wasn't. It's Stalinistic now. You can't. You say boo to a goose. As a Labour member about fucking Keir Starmer, and next thing you'll know, you'll be getting a letter from the fucking disciplinary committees that basically say you've been suspended. That's what's been happening.
Suspended from the whip. I think the only person who was suspended from the whip under Corbyn was John Woodcock, and it was over a sexual harassment allegation. That's the only instance over all of those years where action was taken against these MPs who were allowed to run a rebel campaign within the Parliamentary Labour Party and were given the freedom entirely to do so. And now we have a situation where that kind of dissent is obviously and directly not accepted by the party leadership and its bureaucracy. And it does bring home again the kind of hypocrisy of the liberal media, who were outraged over every minor incursion that Jeremy Corbyn as leader might have made against Labour MPs who disagreed with his policies, but have nothing to say of any substance about Corbyn not only being censored by the Labour Party, but actually having his whip removed after decades long preceding his time as leader, where he was a Labour MP in Islington. And they have nothing to say about that, none whatsoever. Corbyn's suspension of the whip is not really about the EHRC report. Corbyn's statement afterwards, while it might have disagreed with a few lines in a 100-odd page document, accepted all the recommendations. Contrast this with Tony Blair's response to the Chilcot report and the Chilcot inquiry, where he rejected...
Tony Blair should be in fucking prison. Can I just add that? And he's absolutely bang on to make this comparison. Yeah, Blair, basically gave the finger to the Chilcot inquiry findings. He refused to say sorry. You are a war criminal. You should be in prison.
Rejected wholesale all of the findings of that inquiry in its report and all of its recommendations, and did so publicly at a press conference.
I believe I made the right decision and that the world is better and safer as a result of it.
Jeremy Corbyn has never done that. It almost feels strange to me to compare the two things because, of course, in Tony Blair's instance, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of people at least being killed as a result of his actions. But if we want to compare those two scenarios, those show straightforwardly the double standards. And if the same action had been taken by a Corbyn-led Labour Party against prominent right-wing figures, we would never have heard the end of it. They would have been paraded around every TV studio. They would have been front-page stories. The Observer on a Sunday would have been running front pages for weeks and weeks on end. There would have been cause célèbre over them. There would have been photographers in their houses, taking photographs of these MPs who had been so wronged by Jeremy Corbyn and how depressed that they had been made, and big puppy eyes in the front pages of the Observer. We haven't seen any of that for Jeremy Corbyn, and it is because the centre-left media's interest is to create a political system where the difference is between one pro-corporate party who's socially liberal and one pro-corporate party who's socially conservative. And the differences that they might have will be quite narrow, and what they can't allow...
Sound familiar? Sounds like the United States to me. Yeah. So yeah, as I said, I agree with absolutely every word that said in that video. Yes. There was some talk about this on some of the political talk shows on Sunday, that Labour MPs have been ordered not to focus on problems caused by Brexit. And there have been problems, fresh produce. The supermarkets have been short of it. People over time are going to lose their jobs because of Brexit. But when some poor constituent who's lost their job and can't feed their family comes to just Labour MP surgery, the Labour MPs, what are they going to tell them? It's just COVID. Yeah, sure, COVID has certainly fucked up the economy. I'm not denying it, but we all know that the price of food and whatever else is going to go up because of tariffs due to the UK leaving the EU. And so, basically Labour MPs are going to lie to constituents at surgeries if they follow through with this. Yeah? That's how fucking contemptible fucking Labour Party has become now. And I am very angry. I am really fucking angry. I know I'm not screaming my head off and doing an Alex Jones right this fucking moment, but I think I'm angry. Starmer has to go. It's just one farce after a fucking another with him. As I said, yes, he's now trolling the unions. Teachers are considering strike action. Over various issues, work condition issues, due to COVID, I think. And, well, rather than actually supporting them, as Corbyn would do, Starmer has, said that he opposes teachers taking strike action. Teachers are frontline key workers, Keir, and you are crapping all over them. You really are a Tory fucking scab, aren't you? You really are. And you need, yet again, you need to go. The Labour Party are meant to be the party of the Labour movement. Teachers are of the Labour movement. Oh, God. Well, I mean, I don't know. I just can't believe... Yeah, he's a scab. But, while Keir Starmer isn't offering any opposition, somebody is.
Starbucks Premium Instant Coffee has arrived, and Peter enjoys his to the rhythm of jazz. The new way to taste a perfectly roasted coffee at home. By the way, this is jazz. Starbucks Premium Instant Coffee.
Over to Jeremy Corbyn. Jeremy Corbyn.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. My constituents are seeking explanations.
Right. Sorry, I should fill in the blank here, shouldn't I? So, at the weekend, and as I covered on Monday, Starmer said that he doesn't support sacking Matt Hancock for basically breaking the law. Hancock acted unlawfully in the manner as Health Secretary. He handed out contracts for things such as personal protective equipment. Essentially, he gave those contracts to various business buddies of the Tories. So Starmer, generally I was shocked, that Starmer refused to back his sacking. But Jeremy Corbyn is still the voice of the official opposition, it appears.
Most of them have lost income, many have lost their jobs, all are facing varying degrees of stress, from the very severe to the concern about their lives. Many local small businesses have closed for good because they see no future and they're not getting the support that they need. Yet, Mr. Speaker, I think answers are required from the Prime Minister. How £10.5 billion of NHS contracts were awarded without tender, how a further 99% of all NHS contracts were awarded again without tender, and that last week the court found that the Secretary of State for Health had not acted legally in the awarding of these contracts. And so I ask the Prime Minister to do two things. Will he end this scandalous privatisation of our NHS, which is happening before our very eyes? And will he also replace the Health Secretary with somebody who will stand by and obey the law and publish in advance all contracts that are due to be let, so that the public can see how their money is being spent?
Yeah. Jeremy Corbyn is still the voice of the official opposition, unlike Keir Starmer, despite the fact that it's meant to be Keir Starmer's fucking job to be the voice of the official opposition. fuck it, kid. Why don't you just cut out the crap and join the fucking Tories? Because that's what you really fucking want to do, isn't it? Anyways, at least one person amongst other than myself seems to endorse Jeremy Corbyn.
I think he put a wreath at somebody's grave years ago, and I don't know the whole thing about it. I think it happened to be a Palestinian soldier. Somebody. But the idea is that that's the kind of thing that is, dug up by everybody. They're like, hey, well, this guy's doing something we don't want. And let's figure out a way to make him look bad in front of everybody. We all know that. That's Hollywood. That's the way it happens in Hollywood. Same way it happens in politics. You do something, people go, oh, man, let's attack this guy for something that happened 25 years ago or something. It's like what's happening now. Also, Jeremy Corbyn, by the way. Yes, big.
Yep, Danny DeVito is a supporter of Jeremy Corbyn. Good on him. All right. I've seen this many times before, but I just wanted to add it in just to remind you that, he does enjoy, good support, Jeremy Corbyn still. On the question, do I think, because a lot of people want him back as leader of the Labour. No. I kind of think that Jeremy had his stint. But there are people on the left who I think are capable of doing the job. I will float the name Richard Bergen again. But most of all, I just want someone who's up to doing the fucking job, because Keir Starmer isn't. Anyways, meanwhile, in Texas, I saw this in the ad. It was a bit close to the bone, but it did make me laugh. Ted Bro is a fulfilling campaign promise after successfully deporting 2 Hispanic children. Yeah. The Onion. I always recommend people check out the Onion. They can be quite close to the bone, but they do make me laugh. For those in Britain, it's sort of the American version of Private Eye. Oh yeah. Do you know why we can fly a helicopter on Mars, but can't turn on a light in Texas? Because scientists are in charge of Mars and Republicans are in charge of Texas. Yeah, it kind of says it all, doesn't it? Oh yeah, I saw this. There was actually a meme. I can't find it. I saw it and I didn't save it to my hard drive, but I did see a meme which sort of said, Ted Cruz, the first Hispanic to flee from the United States to Mexico, rather than the other way around. Yeah. Yet again, I don't know. Putting a sombrero on him, is that racist? But still, I get the point, and yeah. Anyways, so Ted probably didn't get time. Well, I mean, he flew down there and then he came straight back, did he? Because he realised, because by the time he got down there, he was probably getting fucking phone calls from pollsters saying, Ted, this doesn't look good. You're fleeing Texas, when there's a fucking disaster going on. These are your fucking constituents freezing to death, So you probably get a chance to see a mariachi band. Well, one came to his house. Yeah. And what's Ted been doing since he's been back? I know that here's the thing, right? Fox News viewers are probably going to say, well, he's now helping out, despite, because here's the thing, the Conservatives say, well, it didn't look good that he fucked off to Mexico, but he was trying to take care of his family, blah de blah de blah, and now they're going to go, hey, look, he's back in Texas. He is actually getting his hands dirty and helping the relief effort. these are photo ops, right? It's staged. Duh. And here's the thing. But Fox News viewers are probably not going to understand that. They're probably going to lap this up. Here's here's the thing. I don't know how long people's memories are, but they really need to remember Ted Cruz fucking off to Mexico with his tail between his fucking legs. Next time, you know, he plumps for, you know, thinking about running for president, which I guess will be 2024. You know, I hope there will be Democrats who will be saying to Ted, so Ted, if America's under attack, are you going to fuck off to Canada? Yeah. Yeah, it's also, I have to say, knowing, you know, I can't believe, right, that most averagely intelligent people are going to be able to work out that these are photo ops. This is all staged, right? So I can't believe that Ted Cruz really thinks that he can basically manipulate people. Obviously, there is going to be a section of his constituency which will vote Ted Cruz no matter what. But there's got to be a section who's going to think, you know, you know, in our hour of need, you fucked off, and now looking at you, you're trying to make out that you're helping out, but this is just all fucking stage fake fucking news. Right, yes. So Ted Cruz is saying this is wrong. No power company should get a windfall because of a natural disaster, and Texans shouldn't get hammered by ridiculous rate increases for last week's energy debacle. State and local regulators should act swiftly to prevent this injustice. Really? Well, that's not what you've always been saying. You know, you said that in our regulated market, in our deregulated market, Griddy and some other power suppliers charge customers wholesale variable rates. Those plans are relatively new and left customers frustrated after the storm. Well, you know, you were the person who sorry, I should explain. This is from basically explaining that Ted Cruz here, right, is saying that this is unjust, okay? And yet has supported the deregulation of the electric market. Okay? So, you know, he's now being a hypocrite. Well, he is a politician, so hey-ho. Yet again, I hope people, you know, hold him to account. I don't know if they will, but let's hope. One can only hope. So, Rick Perry says Texans will endure blackouts to keep their government out of their business. Meanwhile, 11-year-old boy died in an unheated and mobile home of faulty suspect hypothermia. Sorry, what was that? Right, you sick fucking bastard, Rick. People have died. And not just this kid, right? And, you know, all you go around doing is blaming, you know, green energy, which isn't to blame because less than 10% of the power supply in Texas is provided by green energy. Okay? So, you know, you're a sick bastard. Oh yeah, Ben Shapiro again. Yeah. So, he's been getting his panties in a bind about a cartoon, an anti-racist cartoon. So let's hear what he has to say.
Hey, and then you got Cartoon Network now pushing anti-racism. Okay, so you've got Rob...
And that's a bad thing? So, anti-racism's a bad thing? Huh?
D'Angelo not just teaching Coca-Cola, but mainstreamed into Cartoon Network. Now, it's one thing to get mad at the Muppets from 1987 for telling a joke that you now consider culturally insensitive 30 years later. It's another thing to get mad at Cartoon Network when Cartoon Network is literally just putting out PSAs mirroring for children, mirroring Robin DiAngelo's talking points on racism and indoctrinating kids into overtly racist garbage. Here's the Cartoon Network pushing what is obviously racism.
Well, I'm not an alien, but it definitely matters to me that I'm black. Yeah, it makes a difference that I'm white. I know the two of us get treated very differently. My experience with anti-black racism is really specific. Other people of color experience other forms of racism too, but you won't see any of that if you don't see color.
Can we get a rewrite where we appreciate each other without erasing what makes each of us different?
Okay, but it's gonna add a couple hours to the shoot.
I can make yours open.
You were rolling just now, weren't you? Can't we just slap some graphics on this and call it a day?
See color, be anti-racist.
You can be anti-racist and see the differences and respect differences. You know, it's called respecting diversity, Ben. And I'd add, Ben, you would be the first person whining if you got slighted for being Jewish. Okay, you would be the first person, you know, who would be complaining about anti-Semitism. In fact, I do recall not so long ago you were getting dogpiled on Twitter for by anti-Semites, and I do remember having to defend you. Yes, because I will defend you against anti-Semitism because I am Jewish as well, and I don't think that you should be that's just wrong. Okay. So, anti-racist campaigns are a good thing for you, and me, not a bad thing. I guess, Ben must have an awful lot of fucking privilege. He probably thinks that, this will never bother him, but it does, and he knows that, and if he searches deep down inside, he'll realise that. Fucking hell. Ben Shapiro really does take the biscuit. Anyways. Alright, yes. So, there's been a report to say that an LGBT person has been attacked every 3 hours in Israel for the last year. Right, now let me explain before we go on. There's a term called pinkwashing, and it definitely does apply to the Israeli government. This is proof that all the shit they say about Israeli society being progressive towards LGBTQ community is actually bullshit. But the Israeli government would like you to think, right, that, they are far more progressive than many other countries in that region when it comes to the LGBTQ community. Now, on paper, yes. However, there are one little thing I would point out. The last time I looked, same-sex marriage wasn't actually legal in Israel. They will recognise a same-sex marriage if it's outside the country, but not inside the country. So, excuse me. When it comes to trans stuff, they are definitely, more progressive than Britain, which is to the shame of Britain, I'd add. So this is kind of worrying, and I'd point out that generally, if you go to places like Tel Aviv and Eilat, they are pretty progressive places for LGBTQ people. However, there is an Orthodox Jewish community who really are somewhat homophobic, unfortunately. And, you know, I remember when Dana International, and I mean, this was a while ago, I'll admit, but I remember when Dana International won the Eurovision Song Contest for Israel. Of course, she's trans, to tell people, I forgot to tell people that. There was a lot of protest from the Orthodox Jewish community. Also, there was a series on Channel 4 called Love Thy Neighbour. It was a comedian whose name I've forgotten. And the last episode of this, he travelled to Israel, where he met an Orthodox Jewish group who were planning to disrupt a pride protest. Now, soon after this, there was a disruption at a pride protest and people got stabbed. So this isn't, you know, what I'm trying to say is that the Israeli government would have you believe, oh, Israel is very progressive when it comes to LGBTQ issues, but, you know, the truth is not so on the ground. Anyways, and to make matters worse, well, Benjamin Netanyahu, but by the way, this is actually incorrect. He hasn't been a long supporter of LGBTQ rights. The reason why Ben Shapiro Ben Shapiro is hard right, and generally when it comes to hard right leaders, Orbán in Hungary and Bolsonaro in Brazil, and of course Trump in the United States until luckily he got voted out of office. They're not supportive of the LGBTQ community. However, it's more of a case that Netanyahu uses the LGBTQ community to try and present Israel as being socially progressive. This is what I'm referring to as pinkwashing. It's a very cynical move. The truth is, he's only using. However, as you can see now, he because he's basically fighting a general election and a corruption case, to save his political skin, he's getting into bed with some even further far right politicians and parties in Israel to essentially save his own political skin. Now, let's see the report.
See again. To win enough right-wing votes in next month's elections, the Israeli Prime Minister's done a deal that's horrified his critics and made cynics of his supporters.
In the past, Benjamin Netanyahu has shown that he's very much in tune with the times.
I ask you to stand in solidarity with our brothers and sisters in the LGBT community. We will not let hate drown out acceptance. Dignity, respect, acceptance. These are the values that will triumph.
But members of his new political orchestra are sounding much more discordant notes.
A country in which two fathers and two mothers is recognized as a family is not normal.
Avi Moaz's Noam party campaigns mostly on a platform of homophobia. It's part of an electoral pact with the religious Zionist party and Jewish power. That's an
Now, here's what's really fucked up electorally in Israel. One of these parties now gets a bigger percentage of the vote than the Labour Party. Right? The Labour Party, which governed Israel for over 30 years. Right? And that is a really sad state of affairs.
extremist movement accused of racism against Arabs by Jewish groups in the United States. Netanyahu's added them to his coalition ticket, hoping they'll get enough votes to secure a minimum threshold of 3.5% of votes and 4 Knesset seats, meaning no right-wing ballot is wasted in keenly contested elections for the 120 seats. Israel's divided left is predictably outraged.
This party is homophobic, is racist, advocates Jewish supremacy, deportation of Arabs. This is medieval politics.
The extreme right political grouping refused to talk to CNN, but the spokesman for Netanyahu's Likud party, which used to shun right-wing extremists, spelled out the political imperative now at work.
I need to be prepared to win in any condition. I don't like this part.
We need to win, to save BB's skin. That's basically it, okay? And he's prepared to get into bed with all sorts of repugnant, entities to do so. The general election, I think, is the last I think it's the last week of March. I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it's the 22nd, but I'll have to double check that afterwards. Anyways, this reminded me of the story from a few years ago. I remember this, right? And I remember my response at the time, right? So basically, the Israeli Defense Force like to brag that the Israeli army is the most vegan-friendly army in the world. And my response was, yeah, being a vegan doesn't stop you from shooting innocent Palestinian protesters, does it? Now, before I go on, let me explain. I am no Piers Morgan, okay? I am not going to spit my dummy out anytime Greggs launch a new vegan product, okay? I'll admit, I don't like their vegan sausage rolls, okay? But I didn't throw them up, trying to be melodramatic on television like Piers Morgan. I have friends who are vegan, and I will defend their right to be a vegan. And, counter Piers Morgan's bullshit that essentially, Greggs and other, outlets selling more and more vegan products is a nefarious way of turning us all into vegans. Because that's bullshit, okay? However, there are some vegans who do take things too far. Now, I know Bryan Adams apologised for this, but nevertheless, let me just read it out. Tonight was supposed to be the beginning of a tendency of gigs at the Royal Albert Hall. But thanks to some fucking bat-eating, wet market, animal-selling, virus-making greedy bastards, the whole world is now on hold. We're trying to think about good things that should come off due to COVID. Well, one of them, stopping Bryan Adams' play, is probably a good thing. Yeah, I'm not a fan. Can you tell? I can't stand fucking Bryan Adams. I actually remember when that fucking song from Robin Hood, was it Everything I Do, I Do It for Love, wasn't it? Something like that. Was number one for fucking ever. That was like the first summer of true freedom I had. It was when I was 17 and my first sweetheart. Didn't work out, but and no, we didn't dance to that fucking song. We both fucking hated it. And in fact, actually, I found out later that Julian Temple, the director of one of the best music documentaries you'll ever see, The Filth and the Fury, which is about the Sex Pistols. Of course, he also directed the Sex Pistols Rock and Roll Swindle. Less said about that, the better. But generally, Julian Temple has directed some really good music documentaries. There was another one about Dr. Feelgood. Was it Oil City Confidential? He's directed stuff on Paul Weller. He directed that fucking video, for that Robin Hood song. Bryan Adams did. So I know he apologised this, but the point here is the bit about the wet market and the fact that there have been vegans, and you can go and check this out for yourself. I did think about playing some of their videos, but I've got a ton of stories I need to get through, so you can check it out in your own time. But there's two vegan channels. One's Earthling Ed, and the other one's Joey Carstrong on YouTube. Now, Earthling Ed particularly is pushing that COVID is due to meat eating because, it originated in a wet market. Right, okay, a few things to say about this. First of all, we think that some bat pissed on a monkey in a cage who then shat on some pig in the cage below them, and the pig was then slaughtered and eaten, and that's how COVID came about, right? But we can't be certain of that, right? And Earthling Ed is really pushing this. And I would point out that even if it did originate in a wet market, it's not necessarily because of meat eating. Humans have been eating meat for tens of thousands of fucking years. Okay, basically what Earthling Ed is doing the same thing that various evangelical Christians have been doing, and that's using COVID to push his agenda on baseless stuff, right? We don't know whether it really did originate in the wet market, and even if it did, as I say, China has their food regulations aren't as high as ours, right? So no one knows, okay? Now, as I said, I've got nothing against vegans, but I think some of their ethical arguments are I do agree with. But personally, I personally would never be able to be even a vegetarian because, first of all, I'm allergic to nuts. Okay, and one of the main sources of protein, if you don't eat meat, is nuts. Right, so I'm out of it. Plus, also, you haven't seen the fucking size of the kitchen I have. I have a tiny fucking kitchen which has no room for food prep whatsoever fucking ever. And also, right, we've had the whole stuff about kids not getting school meals. I could just see it that Joey Carbstrong would be protesting kids getting free school meals because they've got meat in them, and meat's murder, and that's wrong. And look, people are starving, okay, and back off, all right, just shut the fuck up, And I would also, one specific thing I would say to Joey Carbstrong, right, because Joey Carbstrong, he's been going, even during the lockdown, he's been setting up his stall in various shopping malls, and the whole he has his monitors with pictures of animals being slaughtered in slaughterhouses and abattoirs, whatever you want to call them. It's how the hell he's getting away with this during the fucking lockdown, I don't know. And also, that's, if you're just going to shove it down people's throats, right, you're just actually going to put people's backs up. The better way to sort of promote veganism is show them a positive side to it. Show them recipes and what to buy in supermarkets and stuff like that. Not get all moralising about meat is murder and there's an animal Armageddon happening. It's just, And I'd also point out, talking about an animal Armageddon, if a tiger saw me in a jungle, he's not going to decide to be fucking vegan. No, he'll look at me up and down and go, lunch. I am just saying that I think vegans can go a bit too far. Right. I was meant to put this in the running order a couple of days ago, but for some reason I didn't. So, this is to do with Google Ads. Essentially, they've been, because the Google Ads help advertisers target various groups, it's been helping employers and landlords to discriminate against trans and non-binary people, because believe it or not, it's still legal to, in some places, to basically say, room to rent, no trannies. It's as simple as that. I'm using the derogatory term because I'm sure someone has done that. Yeah, this is not good to hear. And particularly from Google, who, from what I know, are fairly, when it comes to their staff, are fairly inclusive of LGBTQ people. I haven't heard otherwise. I'm sure there are some disgruntled LGBTQ employees, and it's due to the way they've been treated, due to them being LGBTQ. But generally, from what I know of Google, they're fairly inclusive, as with Facebook. Yeah. Well, she's back at it. Yeah. Marjorie Taylor Greene. Got it. It seems like a long time ago since we spoke about Marjorie Taylor Greene. So this is to do with the LGBTQ Equality Act, which is due to be voted on sometime this week, I believe, in Congress. And she's been saying it will hurt women. Oh, that's always the first. It's always the. That's always the turf line, isn't it? It's going to hurt women. How? Allowing trans women into women's only spaces is not going to hurt cisgendered women, yeah, because trans women are women, just as cisgendered women are women. It's going to stop Christians from being bigots. Well, that's bad, is it? Oh God. Yeah, so she went on, and I don't know what the fetus is stuff. So let's have a quick look. Far-right conspiracy theorist Marjorie Taylor Greene has recovered from historical embarrassment she earned for being kicked off her committee assignments in the House of Representatives to deride the Equality Act as evil and a direct attack on God. The equality... Right, so... This is the deal, isn't it? This is always the deal. It's against God's law. So let me think about this. So you reckon, right, that in some old crusty book that it says that LGBTQ people are bad, and you reckon that old crusty book is the word of your make-believe Sky Daddy. Sorry, when did fairies at the bottom of the garden become an excuse for bigotry? I mean, it's the same fucking deal, isn't it? I always point this out. They seem to think, right, that mystical sky daddies, right, are an excuse for bigotry. No, they're fucking not. Just as fairies at the bottom of the garden aren't. Okay? For fuck's sake. What the fuck ever. I mean, did we really expect her to actually support the Equality Act? Of course not. So, yeah, actually, before we get to that one, yeah. So, Senator Susan Collins refuses to co-sponsor the Equality Act. She's a Republican, by the way. That shouldn't be a surprise, should it? I mean, the Equality Act is facing another obstacle in the Senate as Senator Susan Collins refused to sponsor the bill and won't say why. Well, she won't say why. It's pretty plain why she won't. She's a fucking Republican, and the Republican are the party of exclusion. And they don't like trans people, because they can't pick on the Irish, the blacks, the Jews, gays and lesbians. Now they're now picking on trans people. That's the way it goes. Bigots have got to be bigots, and the GOP are the party of bigots. That's why. So yeah. Biden administration issues strong statement urging passage of the LGBTQ civil rights bill. The Biden administration has issued a statement in support of the Equality Act landmark legislation that would establish LGBTQ civil rights protections in federal law. The measure will reportedly be voted on in the House this week. With Democrats in the majority, it is expected to easily pass. It should, but the only thing I have to say in response to that is there might be one or two conservative-leaning Democrats. Yeah, and it's quite tight in the Senate. The Equality Act is facing an obstacle in the Senate as Susan Collins refused to sponsor the deal. I might say why. She has previously co-sponsored it, but is upset that the Human Rights Campaign, an LGBTQ advocacy group, endorsed her Democratic challenger in the last election. Well, that, as I said, is because the GOP are the party of exclusion. They are the party of fucking bigots. Right. Collins is seen as a moderate Republican. The bill will need some Republican support to pass in the Senate, as I said. Given her past history of... Well, yeah, it just seems to me that the Republicans have got the bit in the teeth when it comes to being transphobic. Yeah, now, Biden... remains committed to giving non-binary Americans gender-neutral passports. Now, what's wrong with that? Yeah, it's just... I mean, I can't understand why anyone would object to this. Joe Biden could soon order an ex-gender-neutral marker option for passports and all federal documents, according to the ACLU. The ACLU said LGBT plus advocates have been in talks with the Biden administration about adding ex-gender markers to all federal documents. Yeah, and I can't understand why anyone would object to this, right? I don't. And, you know, if this happens in America, it's more likely to happen here. Yeah. No, I fully support this. And anyone who disagrees is a fucking bigot. Right, talking about stuff here. So, I've talked a few times about the fact that for the last 3 years, and maybe even longer, I mean, the first time I remember it being mentioned was in the summer of 2018, but Theresa May and Boris Johnson's government have both promised to outlaw conversion therapy, right? And yet haven't done so in 3 fucking years, right? And, well, why? It's not exactly a hard thing to do. And I know what they're going to say. Oh, well, you know, the parliamentary timetable has been ram-packed, blah-de-blah-de, just, you know, time for to do stuff, blah. No. Now, but what's happened now is that his own MPs are basically asking him to deliver on his commitments. Boris Johnson has been urged by MPs to prioritise a conversion therapy ban ahead of the Queen's speech. Months after he pledged to ban abhorrent conversion therapy, and he did, the Prime Minister has continued to drag his heels, and his MPs are growing impatient. Bernard Jenkins, the chair of the influential... Bernard Jenkins... let me just read on. The chair of the influential Commons Liaison Committee has urged the government to finally made to do on its promise to outlaw debased and debunked practice. What? Bernard Jenkins? Wow, I am a little surprised. If it was Kristen Blunt, it wouldn't surprise me, because as far as I know, Bernard Jenkins is not gay, but Kristen Blunt is. Kristen Blunt's actually an MP for neighbouring constituencies, the one I live in. The committee, which scrutinises committees and the Premier acknowledged the role of the COVID-19 pandemic is stunting other policy priorities. But Jenkins said enough is enough. Yeah, it is. Speaking on behalf of other senior lawmakers in a letter to Commons leader Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Conservative MP wrote, the government's... Oh, that's the wrong person to be writing to. I mean, Jacob Rees-Mogg's a homophobe. The government's programme has been understandably impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, but now that this is closer to being under control, we would urge the government to deliver on its commitments to and demands from select committees on other vitally important legislation. Blah, 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 blah. Right, so, yeah, get on with it. That's what I say. It's wrong. It's wrong, and the only people who really support it are Christian fundamentalists, really. All right, so yeah, Gavin Williamson and his free speech stats. Government's controversial free speech plans for university site research from homophobia. I told you. Did I say? I think when I spoke about this before. Yeah, it's just about being able to be nasty to LGBTQ people and particularly trans people. The UK government's controversial free speech plans for university site research from a homophobic hate group, it has been revealed. The government announced on Tuesday that a free speech champion will be appointed to the board of the Office for Students is a regulatory body for universities. It is also revealed that new legislation will be brought forward to give people the right to sue universities and student unions if they are deplatformed. Now that one is the dangerous one. What do they mean by deplatformed? Yeah. So you're going to force students to have to listen to someone. That's a bit fascist, isn't it? Yeah. So yeah, the group Allied Defending Freedom has been officially designated as an anti-LGBTQ group. By the Southern Law Poverty Centre. And this is who the Tories are getting advice on about free speech. Yeah. Right, yeah. BBC, it's fine for Newsnight to cover trans issues without talking to a single trans person. Right. So, a few months ago, me and Kevin Logan on his channel covered the Newsnight segment on the Kira Bell case against the Tavistock clinic. And I remember spotting that there was no trans people in that segment at all. Not in the report, not interviewed, right? Susie Green from Mermaids was obviously spoke for trans people, and she pointed it out as well, because Susie's not trans herself, of course. So the BBC seem to think this is okay. Okay, so the next time you're going to speak about Jewish issues, are you just going to have members of the National Front on Newsnight? Huh? How about the next time you speak about black issues? What are you going to have? The Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan and no black person. I mean, I half expect the BBC now to make documentaries about trans issues and just have a bunch of TERFs in it. Seriously. I mean, the BBC are now transphobic. I will say, I heard that the women's department of the BBC had been taken over by a bunch of TERFs who had basically gone around and bullied every other fucking department, saying there was only one way to cover women's issues, and that's to throw trans women under the bus. Essentially, be nasty to trans women. This is, the BBC has rejected the complaints. I imagine there were a good number of fucking complaints because I absolutely found that report repugnant. It was really biased against the trans community. As I say, BBC, just as long as every other fucking broadcaster, is fucking transphobic. Oh yeah. All right. So, okay. So let me explain what happened here. So it's Mardi Gras down in Australia, right? Which is their version of Pride, of course. And in some of the sort of publicity for Pride, there was a picture of a Catholic cathedral, right? And basically, the bishop has been doing a nut because of this. What does he want? Talk about being a fucking snowflake. What do you want them to do? The pictures of the city skyline that they want to airbrush out the cathedral. It's not actually there. I mean, and the fact that yet again, this is a guy who's having a go at the LGBTQ community on the basis of some old crusty book says, LGBTQ people are bad, which he reckons is the word of his mystical sky daddy. Hello. Fairies at the bottom of the garden aren't an excuse for bigotry, nor is mystical sky daddies. I mean, I always like the one I always say, and this one does whine Christians. I always said, Jesus and Che Guevara have something in common. They were both failed revolutionaries in their lifetime. But here's the irony. If you hear the voice of Jesus, right, you're saved. You hear the voice of Che Guevara, you're on your way to a psychiatric asylum. Isn't that a bit, I don't know, contradictory, hypocritical, not consistent? Yeah? Yeah. Right. So, an Iranian cleric has told his followers to keep away from those who have been vaccinated against COVID-19 as they have become homosexuals. Obviously, of course, it's bullshit, but the COVID vaccine turns people gay. But even if it did, so what? I know some of the excuses you hear from even like atheists or homophobes is like, well, the whole point of the human race is procreation, or basically having babies. And I go, well, you don't need heterosexual couples to do that anymore. Right, there's things called test tube babies, there's artificial insemination, there's all that sort of stuff, No, I don't need heterosexuality anymore, to keep the human race going. No. So, yeah, but he has been ridiculed for this. Has been widely criticised for his comments. Iranian dissident, outside Iran, he's been. Shame he hasn't been. Sure, I forgot what the penalty for being a practicing lesbian or gay person in Iran is. But it ain't good, is it? Is it death still, or is it prison? I can't remember. Yeah. Right, well, we're coming to the end of the show. That's the last story for tonight. Still got a ton of stuff I need to cover for Friday, believe it or not. But in the meantime, if you want to give us a follow on Twitter, much appreciated. It's yeah, I will follow people back as long as they're not TERFs or Nazis and they're not trying to sell me something, and as long as you've got something solid written in your description. I tend not to follow people who don't have anything written in their description either, because In the past, they have been bots. And don't forget, you can support me on Patreon if you like what I do. I'll do the show no matter what. I also have a PayPal donation button down below. If you want to give me a one-off donation. But until the next time, which will probably be Friday, if you like this video, then please give it a like. Please share it with your friends and share it on social media. I still haven't seen anyone do that yet. If you've got any feedback, then leave us a comment down below. And please subscribe. In fact, the most important thing people can do for me at the moment is subscribe. That's the best thing, and it's free. And you don't have to watch every video. I don't want people to feel like they're compelled to. If they subscribe, they have to watch every video. No. People have lives, and I do 3-hour shows. So anyways, until the next time, please take care of yourselves, stay safe, and peace out.